A powerful CEO discovers his hard-working secretary sobbing in the supply closet, hiding a devastating secret. When he learns she's facing eviction while caring for her sick mother, he offers her shelter in his guest house. But as they grow closer, his jealous fiancée and ambitious rival conspire against them, forcing them to confront painful truths that will transform their lives forever. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The rain pounded mercilessly against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Vertex Technologies' executive floor. Alexander Reid stood at the glass wall, watching raindrops race down the pane while the city lights blurred beneath them. At 42, Alex had built an empire that revolutionized artificial intelligence. His net worth had just crossed the billion-dollar threshold, and tomorrow's merger announcement would likely double that figure. Yet as thunder rumbled across the Manhattan skyline, an emptiness gnawed at him. The same emptiness that had followed him through 3 failed relationships and countless lonely achievements. "Mr. Reid?" His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "The board presentation is ready for your final review." "Thank you, Karen," Alex replied, straightening his custom-made suit jacket. "I'll look at it now." It was nearly 10 p.m., but that wasn't unusual for Vertex Technologies. Alex had built his company on relentless drive and expected the same from his employees. Results were what mattered, not hours spent with family or pursuing personal passions. At least, that's what he told himself to justify the sacrifices he'd demanded, from himself and everyone around him. As he walked through the dimly lit hallway toward the conference room, Alex heard a sound that seemed out of place in the sterile environment of gleaming glass and polished marble. A muffled sob. He paused, tilting his head to locate the source. The supply closet door was slightly ajar, a sliver of light escaping through the crack. Another sob, clearly female, emanated from inside. Alex hesitated. Emotional situations weren't his strong suit, and he briefly considered walking away. But something, curiosity perhaps, or a flicker of humanity his ambitious drive hadn't yet extinguished, made him approach the door. "Hello?" he called softly, pushing it open. Huddled on the floor beside stacks of printer paper and office supplies was Olivia Chen, one of the executive secretaries. Her normally immaculate appearance was disheveled, her eyes red and swollen. When she saw Alex, she scrambled to her feet, hastily wiping her tears. "Mr. Reid, I'm so sorry. I didn't think anyone was still here." Her voice trembled as she smoothed her skirt, clearly mortified to be caught in such a vulnerable state by the CEO himself. "Miss Chen, isn't it? From the legal department?" Alex asked, surprised he remembered her name. He typically paid little attention to staff below the executive level. "Yes, sir. Olivia Chen." She attempted a professional smile that failed to mask her distress. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them. Alex shifted his weight, acutely aware that the correct corporate response would be to ask if she was all right, make some generic sympathetic comment, and then extract himself from the situation. Instead, he found himself asking, "What's wrong?" Olivia looked startled by the direct question. "It's nothing, Mr. Reid. Personal matters. I apologize for using the supply closet. I just needed a moment." Another tear escaped despite her efforts, trailing down her cheek. Alex found himself unexpectedly moved by her obvious attempt to maintain composure. He'd seen Olivia around the office for the past year or so, always efficient, polite, and unobtrusive. The type of employee who made things happen without drawing attention to themselves. "Have you eaten dinner?" The question surprised them both. What? Dinner?" Alex repeated, not entirely sure why he was pursuing this. "Have you eaten?" "No, but that's not necessary. I was about to order something." "Join me in my office." It wasn't a request, but a gentle command. Without waiting for her response, Alex turned and walked toward his corner office, leaving Olivia little choice but to follow. His office was minimalist and imposing, all clean lines, muted grays, and state-of-the-art technology. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of rain-slicked Manhattan, lightning occasionally illuminating the skyline in brilliant flashes. "Please, sit," he gestured to the sleek sofa in the sitting area as he picked up his phone. "Preferences? Allergies?" "I'm not picky," Olivia replied softly. Perching uncomfortably on, the edge of the sofa. "But Mr. Reid, this really isn't." "Alex," he corrected, surprising himself again. "After hours. It's just Alex." He ordered from an upscale Italian restaurant that delivered exclusively to high-profile clients, then sat in the armchair across from her. For a moment, they sat in silence, the rain providing a gentle soundtrack to the awkward encounter. "So," Alex finally said, "would it be easier to tell a stranger what's wrong? Because, technically, despite working in the same building, we're practically strangers." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Olivia's hands twisted in her lap. "It's complicated. Most things worth talking about are." She took a deep breath. "I received an eviction notice today. My mother has been ill. Cancer, and the medical bills." She trailed off, obviously uncomfortable discussing financial problems with a billionaire. "I've been trying to manage, but today I just broke." "I'm sorry you had to see that." Alex studied her. Olivia Chen was perhaps 30, with intelligent eyes and a quiet dignity, even in distress. Nothing about her suggested incompetence or poor decision-making, just someone caught in circumstances beyond her control. "Your work hasn't suffered," he observed. It wasn't a question. "No," she replied firmly. "I've made sure of that." "Family medical issues, though. You should have applied for assistance through our employee support program." Olivia's expression tightened slightly. "I did. The maximum benefit covered 2 weeks of my mother's treatment." Alex frowned. That didn't sound right. Vertex's benefits were supposedly industry-leading. He'd approved the packages himself, or at least signed off on HR's recommendations without scrutinizing the details. Before he could respond, their food arrived. As they ate, Alex found himself asking questions about Olivia's life, her 5 years at Vertex, her educational background, summa cum laude from Cornell, and her mother's condition, stage 3 breast cancer, now in remission but requiring ongoing care. "What about other family? Your father?" "He left when I was 12, Olivia said matter-of-factly. "It's just been Mom and me since then." As the conversation continued, Alex was struck by Olivia's resilience. Despite everything, there was no self-pity in her voice, just determination and a quiet strength he found himself admiring. "Where will you go?" he asked eventually. "After the eviction?" Olivia set down her fork. "I've been looking at short-term rentals, but with New York prices and the security deposits." She shook her head. "We'll figure something out. We always do." Lightning flashed, followed by a crash of thunder that seemed to shake the building. Rain now lashed against the windows with renewed fury. Alex made a decision that would alter both their lives forever. "I have a guest house." Olivia looked up, confusion evident in her expression. "I'm sorry?" "On my property in Westchester. It's sitting empty. You and your mother could stay there until you find something suitable." The offer hung in the air between them. Olivia's eyes widened in disbelief. "Mr. Reid." "Alex, I couldn't possibly." "It's a practical solution," he cut in, suddenly businesslike. "You need housing. I have available housing. Your work is valuable to the company, and losing you to a housing crisis would be inefficient." Olivia almost smiled at his clinical framing of basic human kindness. "Thank you, but why would you do this for me?" Alex paused, asking himself the same question. Finally, he answered truthfully. "I'm not entirely sure, but it feels like the right thing to do." Later that night, as his driver navigated through the storm toward his Westchester estate, Alex sat in the back seat next to Olivia, who had fallen asleep from emotional exhaustion. Her mother would join them tomorrow once Alex's housekeeper had prepared the guest house. Looking at Olivia's peaceful face, Alex felt something shift inside him. For the first time in years, he'd made a decision not calculated to advance his wealth or power, but simply because another human being needed help. It was a small act, insignificant in the grand scheme of his vast resources, yet somehow it felt more meaningful than signing the free, billion-dollar merger deal waiting on his desk. What Alex didn't know as the car glided through the rainy darkness was that his impulsive act of kindness would soon place them both in the crosshairs of those who had everything to gain from his downfall, and that Olivia Chen carried secrets of her own, secrets that would force him to question everything he thought he knew about his company, his closest associates, and ultimately, himself. At his sprawling estate, the housekeeper, Mrs. Winters, was waiting despite the late hour. Her eyebrows rose slightly at the sight of Olivia, but she maintained her professional demeanor. "Good evening, Mr. Reid. I've prepared the guest house as requested. Thank you, Mrs. Winters. This is Miss Chen. She'll be staying with us for a while, along with her mother who will arrive tomorrow." Mrs. Winters nodded politely. "Very good, sir. Shall I show Miss Chen to the guest house?" "I'll do it," Alex replied. "You've gone above and beyond staying this late." As Mrs. Winters departed, Alex led a still dazed Olivia through the main house. A modernist marvel of glass, stone, and steel nestled among old growth trees and along a winding path to the guest house. Though called a guest house, it was larger than many family homes, with 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, and a comfortable living area. "This is incredible," Olivia whispered, taking in the tasteful decor and expansive windows overlooking a garden that would be beautiful once the storm passed. "It has everything you should need," Alex said, suddenly awkward in this domestic setting. "The fridge is stocked. Bathroom has toiletries. If you need anything else, just call the main house." Olivia turned to face him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I don't know how to thank you." "No need," Alex replied, uncomfortable with gratitude. "Get some rest. Take tomorrow off to move your mother in. We'll sort out the details later." Back in the main house, Alex poured himself a scotch and stood at the window, watching rain pelt the illuminated path to the guest house. What had possessed him to invite a virtual stranger into his home? He prided himself on rational decision-making, yet there was nothing rational about this. His phone buzzed. It was Victoria Ashford, his fiancée of 6 months. Their relationship was as strategic as his business mergers. She was the daughter of his biggest investor, beautiful and accomplished in her own right as a luxury brand executive. The society pages had declared them the perfect power couple. "Alex, darling, where are you? I expected you at the charity gala hours ago." The gala? He'd completely forgotten. "Victoria, I apologize. Something came up at work. More important than supporting my foundation." Her voice carried the edge of someone unaccustomed to being anything but a priority. "A personnel issue. Nothing for you to worry about." Even as he said it, Alex knew he was making a mistake by not mentioning Olivia. Victoria would find out eventually. She always did, and her jealousy was legendary. "Well, you missed Raymond Hughes asking very pointed questions about the merger. He seemed to imply there might be complications." Alex's grip tightened on his phone. Raymond Hughes was his chief rival, CEO of Nexus Innovations, who had been trying to undermine the merger for months. What exactly did he say? Something about ethical concerns regarding Vertex's AI applications. He was deliberately vague but seemed to be suggesting he had information that could derail everything. Victoria's tone turned silky. "I defended you, of course. Told him you run the most ethical technology company in the industry." "Thank you," Alex said distractedly, his mind racing. What could Hughes know? The merger had been vetted by teams of lawyers. Unless... His gaze returned to the guest house, where a light still glowed in the window. Olivia Chen worked in the legal department. She had access to sensitive documents. And today she'd been distraught, crying in a supply closet. A cold feeling settled in Alex's stomach. Had he just invited a corporate spy into his home? Was her sob story exactly that? A story, calculated to prey on whatever remnants of compassion he still possessed? "Alex, are you listening?" Victoria's impatient voice cut through his thoughts. "Sorry, just considering the implications." "Well, consider them while getting dressed. There's an after-party at the Morgan's penthouse. Everyone's expecting you." "Not tonight, Victoria. I need to handle this." A brittle silence followed. "Fine. But we need to talk about your priorities, Alex. This relationship won't work if your company always comes first." After ending the call, Alex stood motionless, conflicting thoughts warring in his mind. The rational, suspicious part of him, the part that had built a technological empire, wanted to call security immediately and have Olivia Chen removed from his property. But something deeper, perhaps the instinct that had helped him survive a childhood of poverty and neglect, told him there was more to her story than corporate espionage. Lightning flashed once more, illuminating the path between his house and the guest house, between suspicion and trust, between the man he had become and the man he sometimes wished he could be. Tomorrow, he would get answers. For tonight, he would let Olivia Chen and her secrets rest. What Alex couldn't know was that across town, Raymond Hughes was meeting with someone who had indeed been feeding him information about Vertex Technologies. But it wasn't Olivia Chen. And the storm raging outside was nothing compared to the tempest about to engulf them all. Morning brought sunshine that transformed the estate into a verdant paradise. Alex had slept poorly, his dreams filled with faceless corporate spies and documents marked confidential. He was in his home office by 6, reviewing security protocols and access logs, looking for any evidence that Olivia had been accessing files beyond her clearance level. Nothing seemed amiss. Her digital footprint was exactly what you'd expect from a diligent executive secretary. If anything, she appeared to work longer hours than most, often logged in well after official closing time. At 7, Alex saw her through his window, exploring the gardens that surrounded the guest house. She looked different in casual clothes, jeans and a simple blouse, younger, less guarded. She paused to examine a rose bush, touching a bloom with gentle fingers. The sight stirred something unexpected in Alex. When was the last time he had stopped to look at the flowers on his own property? When had he last noticed beauty for its own sake, without calculating its value? His phone rang, displaying his COO's name. "James, good morning." "Alex, we have a situation." James Harrington's normally unflappable voice sounded tense. "Raymond Hughes gave an interview to Tech Insider. He is alleging that Vertex has been using its AI to illegally data mine personal information from users. Says he has proof." Alex's blood ran cold. "That's absurd." "Maybe. But the stock is already responding. We're down 6 points in pre-market trading. Issue a categorical denial. Get legal on this immediately. I'll be in within the hour." Alex hung up, mind racing. Hughes's accusations weren't just false. They were an exact inversion of what Alex had discovered Nexus doing last year. He'd kept the information quiet, using it as leverage, rather than exposing his rival publicly. How dare Hughes try to tar Vertex with Nexus's own sins? Anger propelled him downstairs and outside before he'd fully formed a plan. He found himself approaching Olivia, who looked up in surprise. "Good morning," she said cautiously, sensing his mood. "Is everything okay? Did you know about Raymond Hughes' allegations before they went public?" The question hung in the air between them, harsh and accusatory. Olivia's expression shifted from confusion to hurt. "I don't understand. What allegations?" Alex studied her face, looking for signs of deception. "Hughes is claiming Vertex has been illegally harvesting user data. It's front page on Tech Insider this morning." Olivia's eyes widened. "That's ridiculous. Vertex has the strongest privacy protocols in the industry. Everyone in legal knows that." Her indignation seemed genuine, but Alex had seen skilled performances before. "And you had nothing to do with these rumors?" Understanding dawned on Olivia's face, followed by a flash of anger. "You think I'm working with Hughes? That yesterday was some kind of— what? An act to gain your trust?" "It would be a clever play," Alex said coldly. "Corporate espionage happens every day." Olivia stepped back as if he'd slapped her. "I think I should leave." "No." The word came out more forcefully than Alex intended. "Not yet." "Are you detaining me, Mr. Reid?" The formality was back, along with a spine of steel he hadn't fully appreciated before. Alex ran a hand through his hair, suddenly aware of how paranoid he sounded. "No, of course not. I apologize. It's just, the timing is suspicious." "From my perspective, the timing was horrific," Olivia countered. "Being found crying by your CEO isn't exactly a career-advancing move." Despite everything, Alex felt a smile tugging at his lips. Her candor was refreshing after years of sycophants and strategists. "Fair point," he conceded. "I'm heading to the office to deal with this mess. Your mother is arriving today?" Olivia nodded, still wary. "My friend Lisa is bringing her around noon." "Good. Mrs. Winters will help get her settled." He hesitated. "And Olivia, I really am sorry for the accusation." She regarded him thoughtfully. "Trust doesn't come easily to you, does it?" The observation was uncomfortably perceptive. "No," he admitted. "It doesn't." "Me neither." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Maybe that's something we have in common." As Alex's driver took him into the city, he found himself thinking about that brief exchange. He built his success on being calculating, on seeing angles and opportunities others missed. But perhaps in the process, he'd lost something essential, the ability to recognize genuine human connection when it was offered. At Vertex headquarters, chaos reigned. The PR team was frantically crafting responses, legal was preparing cease and desist letters, and the stock was now down 12 points and falling. "Where's the leak coming from?" Alex demanded as his executive team assembled in the crisis room. "We don't know yet," James replied. "But Hughes is claiming to have internal documents." "Impossible. Those systems are air-gapped." "Not impossible with human help," said Diana Collins, Alex's head of security. "Someone with the right access could have physically removed data." All eyes in the room turned to Alex's executive assistant, Karen, who had been with him for 8 years. "Don't be ridiculous," Alex snapped. "Karen's loyalty is beyond question." "Everyone's loyalty has a price," Diana replied evenly. "And Hughes has deep pockets." The meeting continued. Strategies were debated and actions assigned. But throughout, Alex found his thoughts repeatedly drifting to Olivia and her mother, now presumably settling into his guest house. Why did that domestic image keep intruding on this critical business crisis? By late afternoon, Vertex had issued strong denials, and their legal team had filed for an emergency injunction against Tech Insider. The stock had stabilized, though still well below yesterday's close. "We need to counterattack," James urged. "Release what we know about Nexus's own data mining operations." "Not yet," Alex decided. "First, we find the leak. Then, we destroy Hughes with his own methods." As the crisis meeting disbanded, Victoria appeared in the doorway, immaculately dressed and visibly annoyed. "Alex, you've been ignoring my calls all day." "I've been slightly busy, Victoria," he replied, gesturing to the chaos around them. "Too busy to mention you've moved some woman into your guest house." The room went silent. Alex felt heat rise in his face, not from embarrassment, but anger at the invasion of privacy. "How did you?" "Mrs. Winters called my assistant to ask about dietary preferences for the new guests." Victoria's smile was razor-sharp. "Imagine my surprise." Alex took her arm and led her into his private office, closing the door firmly behind them. "It's not what you're implying," he said quietly. "One of my employees was facing eviction. Her mother is ill. The guest house was empty. It's a temporary arrangement." Victoria studied him, her expression calculating. "A pretty employee, I assume?" "That's irrelevant." "Which means yes." She paced the office, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. "Alex, do you have any idea how this looks? Today, of all days, with Hughes slinging mud at your company?" The coincidence struck Alex again. "What exactly did Hughes say to you at the gala last night?" "Word for word." Victoria waved a dismissive hand. "I told you." "Vague insinuations about ethical concerns. Before or after you spoke with him, did you mention to anyone that I wasn't coming because of a, quote, personnel issue?" Her eyes narrowed. "What are you suggesting?" "Just answer the question, Victoria." "I may have mentioned it to Cynthia Morgan. What does it matter?" Alex's jaw tightened. Cynthia Morgan was a notorious gossip, whose husband sat on Nexus's board. "It matters because Hughes's attack came hours after you broadcast that I was dealing with a staff problem instead of attending your gala." Victoria's perfectly made-up face flushed with anger. "So this is my fault? Not yours for installing some charity case in your home without even telling your fiancé?" The argument escalated, old tensions surfacing. Victoria's jealousy. Alex, emotional distance. The fundamental mismatch that both had been willing to overlook for the sake of convenience and advantage. "Perhaps we should reconsider this engagement," Victoria finally said, twisting her diamond ring. Alex felt nothing but relief at the suggestion. "Perhaps we should." Her eyes widened in surprise. She'd clearly expected him to backpedal. "You don't mean that." "I think I do." The realization crystallized as he spoke the words. "This isn't working, Victoria. It hasn't been for some time." "Because of her? This?" Secretary? Number because of us. We're a business arrangement, not a couple. We both deserve better than that. Victoria stared at him for a long moment before removing her ring and placing it on his desk with deliberate precision. You'll regret this, Alex. My father won't be pleased. After she left, Alex stood at his office window watching the city transition from afternoon to evening. He should have felt anxious about alienating his largest investor. Instead, an odd sense of liberation washed over him. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Olivia. Mrs. Winters gave me your direct number. Just wanted to let you know Mom is settled in and doing well. Thank you again for your kindness. Whatever's happening with your company, I hope it resolves quickly. Alex read the simple message twice, struck by its lack of agenda. No flattery, no attempt to ingratiate herself, just genuine gratitude and good wishes. He typed back, "Glad to hear it. Don't worry about the company situation. These things happen in business." After a moment's hesitation, he added, "Have you both had dinner? I should be home around 8. Her reply came quickly. "Mom's resting. I was going to make pasta. Nothing fancy, but you're welcome to join." Alex stared at the invitation. When was the last time he'd had a simple home-cooked meal? When was the last time he'd shared a table with someone who wasn't trying to sell him something, buy something from him, or manipulate him in some way? "I'd like that," he replied. "See you at 8. As he gathered his things to leave, Karen appeared in his doorway. "Sir, James asked me to give you this." She handed him a folder marked confidential, the security team's preliminary findings about the leak. Alex opened it and froze. There, in black and white, was evidence pointing to the last person he would have suspected. Someone who had been with him from the beginning. Someone he had trusted implicitly. And suddenly the connection between the corporate espionage and Olivia Chen's appearance in his life became devastatingly clear. As his car headed toward Westchester, Alex sat in stunned silence, the folder open on his lap. The simple dinner that awaited him now seemed fraught with hidden meaning and potential danger. But one thing was certain. By the end of the night, he would know the truth, whatever the cost. The storm that had passed over Manhattan was gathering strength again, dark clouds massing on the horizon as Alex's car approached his estate. It seemed fitting somehow. The calm he'd briefly experienced was about to be shattered by the tempest of truth. The gravel driveway crunched beneath the wheels of Alex's car as it approached his mansion. The security lights illuminated the raindrops beginning to fall, each one catching the glow like tiny falling stars. In the distance, he could see warm light spilling from the guest house windows, a stark contrast to the growing darkness. Alex sat motionless after his driver departed, the confidential folder clutched in his hand, its contents weighing on him like a physical burden. The evidence was circumstantial but damning. James Harrington, his COO and oldest friend, had been in contact with Raymond Hughes through an encrypted messaging service. The timestamps of their communications aligned perfectly with the leaks. Why would James betray him? They'd built Vertex together, from a struggling startup operating out of Alex's cramped apartment to the technological powerhouse it was today. What could Hughes possibly offer that would be worth destroying everything they'd created? The first heavy raindrops struck the windshield, breaking Alex from his reverie. He tucked the folder inside his jacket and made his way toward the guest house, uncertainty dogging each step. The scent of garlic and tomatoes greeted him as he knocked on the door. Olivia opened it, looking relaxed in simple jeans and a soft sweater, her dark hair falling loose around her shoulders. For a moment, Alex forgot about corporate espionage and betrayal, struck by how different she appeared from the polished professional he knew from the office. "You're right on time," she said with a smile that faltered when she saw his expression. "Is everything okay?" "Just business challenges," Alex replied, forcing a smile as he stepped inside. The guest house had been transformed in the short time Olivia and her mother had occupied it. Small touches, a colorful throw pillow, family photos on the side table, a vase of freshly cut flowers from the garden, had turned the stylish but impersonal space into something that felt like a home. "Mom's having a good day," Olivia said, leading him toward the kitchen. "She insisted on helping with dinner, though I made her promise to rest afterward." In the kitchen, Eleanor Chen was stirring a pot of sauce, her slight frame swimming in a cardigan that seemed too large for her. Despite the obvious signs of her illness, the thinness, the careful way she moved, the colorful scarf covering her hair loss, there was a quiet dignity about her that commanded respect. "Mr. Reid," she said, turning to greet him, "what an honor to finally meet you. Olivia has spoken so highly of Vertex." "Please, call me Alex," he replied, taking the hand she offered. "And the honor is mine. Your daughter is a valuable member of our team." Eleanor's eyes, so like her daughter's, studied him with surprising sharpness. "And now, our unexpected benefactor. I don't know how to thank you for this kindness." "There's no need," Alex said, uncomfortable with gratitude as always. "It's a practical arrangement that benefits us both." Eleanor exchanged an amused glance with her daughter. "He talks just like you said he does. Everything is business, even charity." "Mom," Olivia warned, a blush coloring her cheeks. "It's all right." Alex chuckled, surprised to find himself relaxing despite everything. "I've been called worse." Dinner was unlike any Alex had experienced in recent memory. The food was simple but delicious. Pasta with homemade sauce, a fresh salad, and bread that Olivia had picked up from a local bakery. But it was the conversation that truly nourished him. Eleanor told stories of Olivia's childhood, her stubborn determination evident even then. Olivia shared anecdotes from her college days, revealing a wry sense of humor Alex had never glimpsed at work. Most surprisingly, Alex found himself opening up about his own past, his childhood in foster care, the teacher who recognized his aptitude for mathematics and technology, his first faltering steps into entrepreneurship. He couldn't remember the last time he'd spoken about these things, certainly not with Victoria or his business associates, who only cared about the successful man he'd become, not the struggling boy he'd been. "So that's why you helped us," Eleanor said thoughtfully after he'd described his last foster home, where he'd slept on a cot in a utility closet. "You know what it's like to have nowhere to go." The simple observation struck Alex silent. Was that it? Had some deeply buried memory of his own vulnerability prompted his uncharacteristic compassion? "Perhaps," he admitted. "Though I'm not usually so impulsive. Sometimes the heart knows what the mind hasn't figured out yet," Eleanor said with the quiet confidence of someone who had faced her own mortality and come to terms with it. After dinner, Eleanor excused herself to rest, leaving Alex and Olivia to clean up. They worked together comfortably, falling into an easy rhythm as if they'd done this 100 times before. "Your mother is remarkable," Alex said as he dried a plate Olivia handed him. "She is," Olivia agreed softly. "The cancer diagnosis was devastating, but she's faced it with such courage, never complained, even when the treatments were at their worst. She raised an equally remarkable daughter." Olivia looked up, surprised by the compliment. Their eyes met, and something electric passed between them. A moment of connection that transcended employer and employee, billionaire and secretary, rescuer and rescued. They were simply a man and a woman, standing close enough to feel the warmth radiating from each other's bodies. The moment was broken by a crash of thunder that rattled the windows. Olivia jumped, and Alex instinctively reached out to steady her, his hand catching her elbow. The touch lingered longer than necessary. "I should go," he said, suddenly remembering the folder tucked inside his jacket, the betrayal waiting to be addressed, the complications that had nothing and everything to do with the woman standing before him. "Early meeting tomorrow." "Of course," Olivia replied, a hint of disappointment crossing her features. "Thank you for coming. It meant a lot to Mom." At the door, Alex paused. "Olivia, there's something I need to ask you." She looked at him expectantly. "How well do you know James Harrington?" The question clearly caught her off guard. "Mr. Harrington? Only professionally. He's always been cordial but distant." "Why do you ask?" Alex studied her face, looking for any sign of deception. Finding none, he shook his head. "Just curious about staff perspectives on the executive team." "Good night, Olivia." "Good night, Alex." The walk back to the main house through the increasing rain gave Alex time to think. His instincts told him Olivia was being truthful, but those same instincts had failed to detect James's betrayal. Could he trust his judgment about anything anymore? In his home office, Alex poured himself a scotch and spread the evidence against James on his desk. Phone records showing calls to a burner phone traced to Hughes. Calendar entries that aligned perfectly with information leaks. Email fragments recovered from a supposedly secure server. Yet something didn't add up. James had equity in Vertex. The company's downfall would hurt him financially. And in 20 years of friendship, Alex had never seen any hint of disloyalty. James wasn't just his COO. He was the closest thing to family Alex had. Unless Alex pulled up the merger documents on his computer, scanning through the complex legal language until he found what he was looking for. In the event of a failed merger, a specific clause granted enhanced severance to executives, including accelerated vesting of stock options. If the merger collapsed because of revelations about Vertex, James wouldn't be financially ruined. He'd walk away wealthy while Alex fought to save the company's reputation. The betrayal cut deeper with this realization. Not just disloyalty, but calculated self-interest at the expense of everything they'd built together. Alex was so absorbed in his discovery that he almost missed the notification on his phone, a security alert from the main gate. Someone had entered the property using the resident access code, a code only a handful of people possessed. Switching to the security camera feed, Alex saw Victoria's Bentley winding up the driveway, headlights cutting through the rain. What was she doing here at this hour? By the time he reached the foyer, Victoria was already being admitted by his housekeeper, looking immaculate despite the weather, and visibly agitated. "Alex, we need to talk," she announced, brushing past him toward his study, as if they hadn't effectively ended their engagement hours earlier. "It's late, Victoria," Alex said, following her with reluctance. "Whatever this is can wait until morning." "No, it can't." She whirled to face him once they were alone. "My father received a call from Raymond Hughes tonight. He's offering to drop the allegations against Vertex in exchange for something specific." Alex's interest sharpened. What does he want? Olivia Chen. The name hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. "What are you talking about?" Alex demanded. "What would Hughes want with an executive secretary?" Victoria's smile was cold. "Oh, Alex, you really don't know, do you? Your little charity case isn't just any secretary. Before Vertex, she worked at Nexus Innovations, directly under Raymond Hughes." The revelation hit Alex like a physical blow. "That's impossible. Our HR vetting would have flagged that." "Not if her employment records were altered," Victoria countered. "Which they were, expertly. My father had his security team dig deeper after I told him about your houseguest. They found her original application to Nexus from 5 years ago." Alex's mind raced, reassessing everything he thought he knew. Olivia had been at Vertex for just over a year, joining shortly before the merger talks began. Her position in the legal department would give her access to sensitive documents. The eviction, the sick mother, the tears in the supply closet, all of it could have been an elaborate play to get close to him, to gain his trust and access to his home. "Why would Hughes want her back if she's his spy?" Alex asked, his voice hardening. "Not back. Gone," Victoria clarified. "He wants her terminated immediately, with no recommendation. Essentially, he wants to ensure she never works in the tech industry again." None of this made sense. If Olivia was working for Hughes, why would he demand her professional destruction? "Unless you're being manipulated," Alex said slowly, the pieces clicking into place. "We all are." "What are you talking about?" "Think about it, Victoria. If Hughes had genuine evidence of wrongdoing by Vertex, he wouldn't be making deals. He'd be taking it to the regulators. This is about something else." Before Victoria could respond, Alex's phone rang. It was Diana Collins, his head of security. "Sir, you need to see this immediately. I've sent it to your secure email." Alex opened the message on his computer, Victoria watching over his shoulder. It was security footage from Vertex headquarters, time-stamped 3 nights ago. The video showed James Harrington entering the building at 2 a.m. using his executive access card. He went directly to Alex's office, accessed his computer using an administrative override, and downloaded files to an external drive. "My God," Alex whispered. "There's more," Diana said through the phone. "We've traced financial transactions. Harrington has received 3 payments of $500,000 each from an offshore account linked to Nexus." Victoria's face had gone pale. "Alex, my father needs an answer about Hughes's demand regarding Olivia Chen." Tell him I'll handle it my way, Alex replied grimly, ending the call with Diana. You should go, Victoria. This doesn't concern you anymore. Doesn't concern me? Alex, be reasonable. My father's investment was always about control, not return, Alex cut in. I see that now. Please leave. We'll discuss the financial implications of our broken engagement through lawyers. After Victoria stormed out, Alex stood at his window, watching the rain lash against the glass while his mind worked furiously. James's betrayal was now confirmed beyond doubt, but Olivia's role remained unclear. Had she been planted by Hughes, or was she being targeted by him? And why? A flash of lightning illuminated the path to the guest house, where warm light still glowed from a single window. Making a decision, Alex grabbed his coat and an umbrella. Olivia answered his knock quickly. Concern etched on her face when she saw him standing there, rain-soaked despite the umbrella. Alex, what's wrong? I need the truth, he said without preamble. Did you work for Raymond Hughes at Nexus Innovations before coming to Vertex? She paled, her hand gripping the doorframe. How did you? Just answer the question. Olivia closed her eyes briefly, then nodded. Yes, but it's not what you think. Explain. She glanced over her shoulder toward her mother's bedroom, then stepped outside, pulling the door closed behind her. Not here. I don't want Mom to hear this. She doesn't know everything. They walked to a small gazebo at the edge of the garden, sheltered from the rain. Olivia hugged herself against the chill, looking smaller and more vulnerable than Alex had ever seen her. I worked as Hughes' executive assistant for 3 years, she began. At first, it was a dream job. He was charming, brilliant, a visionary, or so I thought. But then I started noticing discrepancies in the research data Nexus was publishing about their AI's capabilities. When I asked questions, Hughes told me it was just, quote, marketing polish, nothing to worry about. But you did worry, Alex guessed. Yes. I kept digging, and what I found was disturbing. Nexus was systematically harvesting user data without consent, using it to train their AI on emotional responses. They were essentially creating psychological profiles of millions of people without their knowledge. Alex's blood ran cold. This aligned with what he discovered about Nexus last year, but went far beyond his suspicions. I confronted Hughes, Olivia continued, her voice growing stronger with the telling. I thought naively that he would be concerned, that he'd want to fix it. Instead, he threatened me. Said if I went public, he would destroy my career and make sure my mother never received medical treatment again. He threatened your mother? Alex's fists clenched involuntarily. Not directly. But he made it clear he had influence with the hospital board where she was being treated. Then he showed me what happened to whistleblowers who crossed him. Financial ruin, ruined reputations, systematic destruction of their lives. So you ran, Alex said softly. Olivia nodded. I altered my employment records. I have some skills in that area from college and applied to Vertex. I knew your company's ethical reputation. I thought I'd be safe there. But you weren't. About 6 months ago, I received an anonymous message. Someone knew who I was, knew about my mother. The message warned me to stay in my lane or face consequences. A week later, our rent increased by 40%, putting us on the path to eviction. Then Mom's insurance company suddenly found, quote, discrepancies in her policy that delayed her treatments. Hughes, Alex muttered, I assume so. I've been terrified ever since, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then yesterday happened. She looked up at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Finding me in that supply closet wasn't planned, Alex. Neither was your kindness. When you offered us your guest house, it felt like a miracle. The first bit of luck we'd had in months. Alex studied her, weighing her story against everything he knew. The emotion in her voice felt genuine, the details consistent with Hughes's known tactics. Why didn't you tell me this from the beginning? Because I was afraid, she admitted. Afraid you wouldn't believe me. Afraid you'd think I was trying to manipulate you. Afraid of what Hughes might do if he found out I'd told anyone. And now? Alex asked. Are you still afraid? Olivia met his gaze steadily. Yes, but but I'm more afraid of living in fear forever." Thunder rumbled overhead, a low, continuous growl that seemed to underscore the gravity of the moment. Alex made his decision. "Hughes wants you fired," he said bluntly. "He's offering to drop his allegations against Vertex in exchange for your professional destruction." Olivia flinched as if struck. "And you're going to do it?" "No." The single word hung between them, a declaration of war against Raymond Hughes and all he represented. "But your company is strong enough to weather this storm," Alex finished for her. "What I can't weather is the knowledge that I abandoned someone to a bully. Not again." "Again?" Olivia asked softly. Alex's jaw tightened. "When I was 14, in my last foster home, there was a younger boy. The other kids tormented him, and I did nothing. Told myself it wasn't my problem. One day, he ran away. They found him 3 days later, hypothermic, barely alive." He shook his head, the old shame resurfacing. "I promised myself never again." Understanding dawned in Olivia's eyes. "That's why you helped us. Not just because you knew what it was like to have nowhere to go, but because you couldn't turn away from someone in need." "Not this time." "Perhaps," Alex acknowledged. "Though I didn't consciously make the connection until now." Their eyes met, the distance between them, employer and employee, billionaire and secretary, dissolving in the face of shared vulnerability. For the first time in years, possibly ever, Alex felt truly seen by another person. "We should go inside," he said after a moment, aware of Olivia shivering in the cool night air. "It's late, and tomorrow will be challenging." As they walked back toward the guest house, Alex outlined his plan. He would confront James with the evidence of his betrayal, force a confession, and use it to neutralize Hughes's threats. Meanwhile, Olivia would compile everything she remembered about Nexus's illegal data mining: dates, projects, specific violations. "What if it's not enough?" Olivia asked as they reached her door. "Then we'll find another way," Alex promised. "I didn't build Vertex by backing down from fights." "Why are you doing this?" she asked, searching his face. "Really? You could just fire me, make a deal with Hughes. Protect your company the easy way." Alex considered the question, surprised to find the answer came readily. "Because some things matter more than business. Some lines shouldn't be crossed, even for profit or convenience." "Like what?" "Like basic human decency. Like standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult." He smiled slightly. "Like refusing to let fear dictate our choices." Olivia's expression softened. "When did the ruthless CEO develop a moral code?" "Maybe he always had one," Alex replied quietly. "Maybe he just needed to be reminded." Their eyes held for a long moment, an unspoken connection forming in the silence between heartbeats. Then Olivia leaned forward and brushed her lips against his cheek, a gesture so gentle it might have been imagined. "Thank you," she whispered, "for believing me." As Alex walked back to the main house through the rain, he felt an unfamiliar lightness despite the challenges ahead. Tomorrow would bring confrontation, possible scandal, and professional risk. Yet for the first time in longer than he could remember, he was certain he was doing the right thing. Not the profitable thing or the strategic thing, but the right thing. The storm continued to rage around him, but within, a different kind of tempest was brewing, one that might just transform him from the man he had become into the man he was meant to be. What Alex couldn't know as he prepared for battle was that Raymond Hughes had one more devastating card to play, a secret that would test not only his newfound moral resolve, but also the fragile trust growing between him and Olivia. And when dawn broke, bringing the promise of reckoning, the true cost of integrity would finally be revealed. Dawn broke over the Westchester estate, the storm having passed during the night, leaving behind a washed clean world glittering with dewdrops. Alex stood at his bedroom window, watching the first golden rays illuminate the guest house where Olivia and her mother slept. He hadn't slept at all, spending the hours strategizing, gathering evidence, and preparing for the confrontation ahead. His phone buzzed with a text from Diana Collins. "Security team in place as requested." Harrington expected at HQ by 8:30. Alex had instructed his head of security to ensure James wouldn't be able to leave once he arrived at Vertex headquarters. The thought of confronting the man who had been his friend and partner for 20 years made his stomach knot, but there was no avoiding it. The betrayal had to be addressed, the damage contained. As he drove himself into the city, unusual for him, but he needed the solitude to center his thoughts, Alex reflected on the strange turns his life had taken in just 48 hours. From finding Olivia crying in a supply closet to discovering a conspiracy that threatened everything he'd built, it felt like he'd been swept up in a current beyond his control. Yet strangely, he felt more in control than he had in years. The path ahead was clear, not because it was easy or safe, but because it was right. Vertex Technologies' sleek headquarters gleamed in the morning sunlight as Alex pulled into his reserved parking space. Employees nodded respectfully as he passed through the lobby, unaware of the drama about to unfold in the executive suite. Diana met him at the elevator, her normally impassive face tight with tension. "Harrington arrived 10 minutes ago," she reported as they rode up. "He's in his office, reviewing quarterly projections as if nothing's wrong." "Has he tried to contact Hughes this morning?" "Yes. 3 text messages and 1 call, all on his personal device. Our team is monitoring but not intercepting." Alex nodded, a cold resolve settling over him. "Gather the executive team in the main conference room. Tell them it's urgent, but don't specify why. I want to handle James privately first." "And Victoria's father?" "He's been calling since dawn." "Let him call. This gets resolved my way." The executive floor was humming with normal morning activity when Alex stepped off the elevator. He walked directly to James's office, not bothering to knock before entering. James looked up, his customary smile faltering when he saw Alex's expression. "Morning. You're in early." "We need to talk," Alex said, closing the door behind him. "About Raymond Hughes." The name hung in the air between them. James's reaction was almost imperceptible, a tightening around the eyes, a slight tensing of his shoulders. But to someone who had known him for 20 years, it spoke volumes. "What about him?" James asked, his voice carefully neutral. Alex placed his phone on the desk, screen up, and played the security footage, showing James downloading files from Alex's computer at 2 a.m. "Want to explain this?" Color drained from James's face as he watched himself on the screen, caught in undeniable evidence of his betrayal. When the video ended, silence filled the office, broken only by the soft hum of the air conditioning. "It's not what it looks like," James finally said, the words hollow even to his own ears. "Then what is it?" Alex asked quietly, dangerously. "Because it looks like my oldest friend selling company secrets to our biggest competitor. It looks like betrayal on a scale I can barely comprehend." James stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "You don't understand, Alex. Hughes has something on me. Something that would destroy everything." "What could possibly justify this?" Alex demanded, his control slipping. "We built this company together. I trusted you with everything." "He has evidence that I falsified research data on our first AI prototype," James said, turning to face Alex with desperation in his eyes. "The one that won us our initial funding. If that comes out, it's not just my career that's over. It's prison time." Alex stared at his COO, trying to process this new betrayal. Their first breakthrough, the algorithm that had put Vertex on the map, had been built on fabricated results? "You lied about the test outcomes," Alex said flatly. It wasn't a question. "We were going to fail, Alex. 3 years of work, all our savings, about to disappear because the algorithm wasn't learning fast enough. I just nudged the numbers. And then we got the funding, and you were able to fix the real problems, and everything worked out. The final product delivered everything we promised. Except it was built on fraud," Alex said coldly. "Does anyone else know about this?" James shook his head. "Just Hughes. I can't say. Don't know how he found out, but 6 months ago he approached me with evidence. Said he'd keep quiet if I fed him information about the merger. The timeline clicked into place 6 months ago, right when Olivia had started receiving threatening messages. Around the time merger talks had become serious. And The money? Alex asked. The 3 payments of $500,000? James had the grace to look ashamed. Insurance. You said I'd need it when everything fell apart. Alex studied the man he'd thought he knew better than anyone. Why didn't you come to me when Hughes first approached you? We could have handled it together. Would you have stood by me knowing I'd committed fraud? Knowing I'd put the entire company at risk? James laughed bitterly. You, with your rigid ethical code? You'd have turned me in yourself. The accusation stung because there was truth in it. The old Alex, the Alex from 3 days ago, might indeed have done exactly that, valuing the company's reputation above all else. Maybe, Alex conceded, but that's not who I am today. The admission hung between them, a recognition of change that even Alex hadn't fully processed until this moment. What happens now? James asked, resignation in his voice. Now you call Hughes, Alex said, sliding his phone across the desk. Tell him you have something he wants and to meet you at my house in Westchester at noon. Tell him to come alone. Your house? Why? Because that's where this ends, one way or another. After James made the call, Alex summoned security to escort him from the building. There would be legal consequences later, but for now, James would play his role in the trap Alex was setting. The executive team was waiting in the conference room, faces concerned as Alex entered alone. Where's James? The CFO asked. James Harrington is no longer with Vertex Technologies, Alex announced, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. As of this morning, I've discovered evidence that he has been sharing confidential information with Raymond Hughes at Nexus Innovations. The room erupted in shocked exclamations and questions. Alex raised a hand for silence. I know this is difficult to process. James was family to many of us, but his actions have placed this company and all of you at risk, and I won't allow that to continue. What about the merger? Someone asked. The allegations Hughes made? Those will be addressed by the end of the day, Alex promised. In the meantime, Diana Collins will be implementing enhanced security protocols, and I'm promoting Lisa Chen to interim COO. Lisa, the head of product development, looked stunned. Sir, I'm honored, but you've demonstrated exceptional judgment and integrity, Alex cut in. Exactly what we need right now. The rest of you, return to your departments. Reassure your teams. Vertex isn't going anywhere. As the executives filed out, still reeling from the news, Alex pulled Diana aside. I need a full security detail at my house by 11. Discreet, but ready for anything. And contact the FBI agent we've worked with before, Dawson. Tell him I may have evidence of corporate espionage and data privacy violations that will interest him. You're expecting trouble, Diana observed. I'm expecting Raymond Hughes to fight when he's cornered, Alex corrected. And I intend to be ready. The drive back to Westchester gave Alex time to prepare mentally for what was coming. Hughes was dangerous, not physically perhaps, but he wielded power and influence like weapons. The confrontation would require all of Alex's strategic skills. At the estate he found Olivia in the garden, helping her mother take a short walk in the morning sunshine. Eleanor looked frail but determined, her arm linked with her daughter's for support. Alex, Olivia said, surprise and concern mingling in her voice. You're back early. Did something happen with James? We need to talk, Alex replied, nodding respectfully to Eleanor. Raymond Hughes is coming here at noon. Eleanor's eyes widened. The man from Nexus? Here? It's all right, Mom, Olivia assured her, though her own face had gone pale. Let's get you back inside to rest. Once Eleanor was settled in the guest house, Olivia joined Alex on the terrace of the main house, her body tense with apprehension. Why would you invite Hughes here? She demanded. After everything I told you about him? Because this is where I have the advantage, Alex explained. My security team will be in place. The FBI has been notified, and Hughes won't expect us to be working together. You're setting a trap. I'm ending this, Alex corrected. But I need your help. He outlined his plan, how they would confront Hughes with evidence of his illegal data. Mining, how they would leverage James's confession, how they would finally expose the truth. It's risky, Olivia said when he finished. Hughes is ruthless. He'll have contingencies. So do I, Alex assured her. But there's something else you should know before he arrives. He explained what James had revealed about falsifying the early research data, watching her face carefully for her reaction. The foundation of Vertex is built on fraud, he concluded. Hughes knows it, and he's been using it to manipulate James. Once this is over, I'll have to make it right. Disclose the truth. Face the consequences. It could destroy everything you've built, Olivia said softly. Yes. Yet you're willing to do it rather than continue the lie. Alex nodded. Some prices are worth paying for integrity. I'm learning that. Perhaps too late. Olivia's expression softened. It's never too late to choose the right path, Alex. That's what gives me hope. That we can always choose to be better tomorrow than we were yesterday. Their eyes met, a current of understanding passing between them that transcended words. In that moment, Alex realized that whatever happened with Hughes, whatever the cost to his company or reputation, he had found something more valuable, a connection with someone who saw his flaws and believed in him anyway. The moment was interrupted by Diana's arrival with the security team. As they began setting up surveillance and positioning personnel around the property, Alex noticed Olivia growing increasingly tense. "What is it?" he asked. "There's something I haven't told you," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Something about my mother's illness." Alex waited, sensing the importance of whatever she was about to reveal. Her cancer treatment was part of an experimental program at Nexus's Medical Research Division, Olivia explained. "When I left, Hughes threatened to pull her from the program unless I stayed silent about what I'd discovered. I thought I'd found a way around it by getting her into a different clinical trial, but the insurance discrepancies that delayed her treatment weren't coincidental." Alex finished, the pieces clicking into place. "Hughes was reminding you of his power over her care." Olivia nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. "I tried so hard to protect her, to keep her from knowing how precarious our situation is. She thinks the move to your guest house is just temporary housing until our apartment issue is resolved. She has no idea that her life has been used as leverage against me." Alex's jaw tightened with fresh anger toward Hughes. Using a dying woman as a pawn in his corporate games was beyond contemptible. "We'll protect her," he promised, taking Olivia's hand. "Whatever happens today, your mother's care will be secured. You have my word." The touch of his hand on hers seemed to steady her. "Thank you. For everything." As noon approached, the estate became quietly charged with tension. Security personnel took their positions. Surveillance was checked and rechecked, and Alex and Olivia prepared for the confrontation in his study. "Stay close to me," Alex instructed. "Let me lead the conversation. Hughes will try to divide us, to make us doubt each other. Don't let him." Olivia nodded, her face set with determination. "I've been afraid of him for too long. It ends today." At precisely noon, Raymond Hughes's black Bentley rolled through the front gates. Diana's voice came through the security comm. "Target has arrived. One vehicle, driver plus Hughes only. No visible weapons." Alex took a deep breath, centering himself. "Ready?" Olivia squared her shoulders. "Ready." They watched from the study window as Hughes emerged from his car. A tall, distinguished man in his 50s, with silver hair and the confident bearing of someone accustomed to getting his way. James was escorted from a separate vehicle by 2 security officers, looking like a man being led to execution. "Bring them in," Alex instructed through the comm. Minutes later, Hughes strode into the study as if he owned it, his cold eyes taking in Alex and Olivia with calculated assessment. "Alexander Reid," he said, his voice cultured and smooth. "This is an unexpected venue for a business meeting. And Olivia, my dear." "How?" "Predictable to find you here." "Raymond," Alex replied coolly. "Thank you for coming." "Your lapdog said you have something I want," Hughes said, gesturing dismissively toward James, who stood near the door, flanked by security. "Though I must say, I'm puzzled by the theatrical setup." "What I have is evidence," Alex said, moving to his desk where a laptop displayed a series of documents. "Evidence of Nexus innovation systematically violating data privacy laws to create psychological profiles of your users without consent." Hughes's smile didn't waver, but his eyes hardened. Interesting theory, completely unfounded, of course. Not according to your own internal memos, Alex countered, turning the screen to show emails between Hughes and his development team, or the testimony of your former executive assistant, who witnessed the program firsthand. Ah, yes. Olivia's wild accusations. Hughes turned his predatory gaze to her. Tell me, my dear, how is your mother doing? Still responding well to her treatments? It would be a shame if her access to that experimental drug were suddenly restricted. Olivia paled but stood her ground. You can't threaten us anymore, Raymond. It's over. Nothing is over until I say it is, Hughes snapped, his urbane facade cracking slightly. He turned back to Alex. Whatever she's told you is the desperate fabrication of a disgruntled ex-employee. You're risking your company on the word of a secretary? No, Alex replied evenly. I'm standing up for what's right, based on evidence and principle. Something you might not recognize. Hughes laughed, a cold sound devoid of humor. Principles? From the man whose company was built on falsified research data? He glanced at James. Your COO has been quite forthcoming about Vertex's origins. I know all about that, Alex said, surprising Hughes. In fact, I'll be disclosing it publicly as part of a full transparency initiative. The difference between us, Raymond, is that I'm willing to face the consequences of past mistakes. Are you? For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Hughes's face. What exactly are you proposing? A clean slate, Alex said. You drop your false allegations against Vertex. I don't pursue legal action regarding your data privacy violations. We both implement more rigorous ethical standards moving forward. And, he paused, locking eyes with his rival, you ensure Eleanor Chen receives the full course of treatment she needs, regardless of where Olivia works. Hughes studied him with narrow eyes. And James, I assume he's part of this deal. James will face appropriate consequences for his actions, Alex replied, not looking at his former friend. But not through your manipulation. How noble, Hughes sneered. And if I refuse your generous offer? Alex nodded to Diana, who had been standing silently in the corner. She pressed a button on her phone, and the room's large monitor displayed a video call with FBI Agent Dawson. Then Agent Dawson receives the complete evidence package we've compiled, Alex said calmly. Emails, internal memos, testimony, financial transactions, everything documenting both Nexus's illegal data mining and your attempted corporate espionage against Vertex. Hughes's composure finally cracked. You're bluffing. You'd destroy your own company with those revelations about the falsified research. Perhaps, Alex acknowledged, but integrity matters more than success built on lies. That's something I've learned recently. His eyes briefly met Olivia's. Sometimes the right path isn't the easy one. A tense silence filled the room as Hughes calculated his options, his brilliant mind no doubt gaming out every scenario. Finally, his shoulders slumped almost imperceptibly, a gesture of defeat so subtle only those looking for it would notice. You've changed, Reid, he said quietly. The Alex Reid I knew would never risk his company for principles. Or for a woman. You're right, Alex agreed. I have changed. For the better, I hope. The negotiation that followed was tense but productive. Hughes, recognizing his position, agreed to Alex's terms with minimal resistance. Papers were drawn up, statements prepared, and by late afternoon the crisis that had threatened to destroy Vertex Technologies was on its way to resolution. As security escorted Hughes and James from the property, Olivia stood on the terrace, watching the sun begin its descent toward the horizon. Alex joined her, loosening his tie with a weary but satisfied expression. It's really over, Olivia said wonderingly. I've lived with his threats for so long, I almost can't believe it. Believe it, Alex assured her. Your mother will get the treatment she needs. Hughes will honor that commitment if he knows what's good for him. And Vertex. The disclosure about the early research data? Alex sighed, leaning against the balustrade. It will be a blow, certainly. Stock will take a hit. We may lose some investors, including Victoria's father. But we'll survive. The company is strong enough now to withstand the truth. Because of you, Olivia said softly. Your leadership, your vision. And now my integrity, Alex added with a small smile. Better late than never. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the golden light play across the manicured gardens. So much had changed in just 3 days. Alex's understanding of himself, his values, his priorities. All because he'd found a woman crying in a supply closet and made an impulsive decision to help. "What happens now?" Olivia asked, voicing the question that hung between them. "That depends," Alex replied, turning to face her. "Your mother is welcome to stay in the guest house as long as she needs for her treatment. As for you?" He hesitated, suddenly uncertain. "As for me?" Olivia prompted. "I can't be both your employer and whatever else we might become to each other," Alex said carefully. "It wouldn't be appropriate." Understanding dawned in Olivia's eyes. "Are you firing me, Mr. Reid?" "No," he replied with a smile. "I'm offering you a choice. Stay at Vertex if that's what you want. You've certainly earned a promotion after everything you've endured. Or, Olivia's voice was barely above a whisper, "or explore what this is between us," Alex finished, gesturing to the invisible current that had been drawing them together since that rainy night in his office. No pressure, no expectations, just two people getting to know each other outside the constraints of a corporate hierarchy. Olivia studied him, her expression thoughtful. "That's a significant risk for you. Your reputation, the perception of your leadership." "Some things are worth the risk," Alex said simply. A smile slowly spread across Olivia's face, lighting her eyes with a warmth that made Alex's heart race. "I've always believed that true courage isn't the absence of fear, but acting despite it. Finding someone crying in a supply closet and offering help instead of judgment. Standing up to a powerful adversary because it's right, not because it's safe." She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. "You've shown that kind of courage, Alex. How could I do any less?" As the setting sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, Alex Reid, billionaire CEO, technological visionary, reformed corporate warrior, learned the final and perhaps most important lesson of his transformation: that true wealth isn't measured in dollars or power, but in the courage to be vulnerable, to choose integrity over expedience, and to open your heart to possibilities you never imagined. Eleanor Chen watched from the guesthouse window as her daughter and Alex Reid talked on the terrace, their body language speaking volumes about the connection forming between them. She smiled, despite her fatigue, remembering something she had told Alex days earlier. Sometimes the heart knows what the mind hasn't figured out yet. How right she had been. And how fortunate that her daughter had found not just shelter from the storm, but perhaps something far more precious. A man whose tears of compassion had washed away the barriers around his heart, allowing him to become the person he was always meant to be. In the supply closet of Vertex Technologies, where this journey had begun, a small plaque would later appear, bearing words that would become the company's new guiding principle. "True success is measured not by what we achieve, but by how we achieve it. Integrity first, always." And in the years to come, whenever Alex was asked about the turning point that transformed both his company and his life, he would always give the same answer. It began with tears in a supply closet, and ended with the courage to question everything. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.